Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we're here with a video on why Jagex is ruining the game with their recent update blog. We're going to go through it and kind of talk about all the fun stuff that, they have in store for us. Basically, my blowpipe is going to be rendered useless by the almighty Jagex gods, and my Zora loot tab is now worthless as well. So that's where we stand. It's a pretty tough time, but let's go ahead and start to talk about it. So before we get over to the blog, basically, the backbone of what they're talking about here is just trying to preserve the longevity of the game. There are some items like the blowpipe that are insanely good, and basically you're either going to have to make items that are better than it, or there just can't be updates because, how are we going to surpass the blowpipe? What do we really do to work around it? So that's the backbone of it. I feel it's moderately necessary personally. The blowpipe, the twisted bow, the sight, all of these are so good that we basically have something for anything in game. And which one kind of sticks out to us? The blowpipe. Because the twisted bow and the scythe, they're both pretty niche items that are insanely expensive, while the blowpipe is almost universally usable and very inexpensive. So I understand the need. So hopping on over to the site, we can start by looking here. It kind of talks about their survey that they posted and kind of sent out to people and got about 10,000 responses. Essentially, the feeling was a little bit more than half the player base felt that power creep was starting to happen, if not already in effect. So Jagex then decided that, it was about the right time to go ahead and talk about this type of stuff. What they're going to be focusing on right now is essentially just changing really good items to be, good but not great. They're going to make really bad items be at least marginally usable, and they're going to reassess what levels you unlock items at, because right now they're kind of all thrown at the same level. Like, you unlock a ton of things at 75, and they're going to space it out a bit more to make it make more sense for players, which personally I'm a big fan of, because that never really made sense to me. So scrolling through the items here, really looking like the rapier, it makes sense that it would be up to 80. A lot of these items, like the rapier, the mace, you're not even going to really have these items by the time you get this level, so I don't really think that changing the requirements affects anything at all. Like with the staffs down here, I think it makes sense, because look, you unlocked all of these at 75, and 75 for the trident, staff, the kodai, all of these. So having them spaced out a little bit based on kind of where you should be at in the game, again, makes sense. So I'm a big fan of a lot of this. Not really too much to talk about. Again, a lot of these items you won't even own until you already have the requirements, so it really doesn't matter. And then we get on to the fun stuff, the nerfs. That's where people lose their mind. And man, has it been fun to watch. It's just, I don't take too much of it in, but I take in enough to see what's going on. And anytime there's a nerf, people are upset. That's just how it goes. That's not Faceguard, the first one to be talked about. It is just a strength downgrade from +6 to +5. That might not seem like a big deal, but it is really strange, because before the That's Not Faceguard came out, they nerfed the SERP helm, and then now they're going to nerf the new helm that they brought out. Some people are worried that the Faceguard won't be, that viable now, because, the Serpentine helm's very good as is. With scales going down in price, it makes it more usable, and the Venom's a nice perk. So, again, I'm not really sure how necessary this was, but I guess. The problem is, it never really made sense to have, a level 60 Slayer monster allow you to get the best helm in the game. So now it makes sense to have a better way to get a new helm, but at the same time, it's we just added this. I don't know. Not really that big of a fan of it, but I guess. The second item is the twisted bow, and if we go down here, basically all they want to do is take away the prayer bonus on the twisted bow. As someone that owns one, if all you want to do is take away the prayer bonus, I am fine with it. That's a great nerf. It never really needed it anyways. It's already a truck, so I don't need it to have a little bit of prayer bonus, and I am good with that. But please don't nerf it anymore. We'll talk about that in a second. Some people are getting a little crazy, but we'll talk about it in a second. Dragonhide armor, this one, it's just, I get it, PKers hate having to fight people that have Dragonhide and get away because their mage defense is too high and whatnot. I just don't know how big of a deal it is, but at the same time, if they feel it's necessary, then sure. I'm not gonna, lose my mind over Dragonhide being a little worse when it already is so cheap. Now this one, This one gets me. The Dinh's Bulwark. So I've been a big fan of this item as long as it's been in the game because, I mean, personally it saved my life in the wilderness many a times, and I like the idea of a shield-based item that has a use in game. Problem is, they're just trying to take the use in game away. They're thinking about adding negative 25 magic defense, so then I'm gonna, just get killed even more by clans. And they want to reduce melee defense by 25% in terms of bonuses. So that is just awful. Just nerf the shield so much to the point to where, like, why? I mean, I'll use it for a little bit, I guess, but they've already nerfed it so much. It has no point in the game. If it had a point in the game, then I'd be like, fine, you can take away the use of it being a PK shield, but if there's no use for it in the game, you're essentially just taking it out of the game. I'm not really a fan of it at all, and I mean, maybe that's because I'm someone that just doesn't want to get killed in the wilderness. Maybe I'm biased, that's something that could exist in all these, but again, I just want it to have a purpose. And then this is the fun one. This is the one that's got everyone all riled up, and I love how they just threw it in here at the end of all the nerfs. At the very end, we'll talk about the one that actually matters, and that is the toxic blowpipe. Oh my god. So they want to take down the range attack from 60 to 30. They want to take down the range strength from 40 to 25. And then they want to take down a lot of the accuracy and some, well, actually no strength, I guess. Oh, no, a little bit of strength taken down too. So, I mean, goodness. They just want to absolutely nerf it. Now, you might not have a good idea in terms of what all these numbers mean and how this looks, but essentially what I've heard is that the new blowpipe with dragon or rune darts, like high tier darts up here, will essentially be what the old blowpipe with bronze or iron darts was. So they are trying to nerf this to the ground. Now I'm not sure if that's like a bargaining tactic, I think they want to meet in the middle maybe, and from what we can tell it looks like that's what they're gonna do. So that's what everyone was freaking out about, was how quick Jagex was to try to nerf it to the ground in theory, but my feeling is they just try to do that to scare people and then, understand that a middle ground is pretty doable. No matter how the blowpipe nerf ends up turning out, I will say it's been busted for a long time. If you've only gotten into the game the last couple years and you've just kind of grown into the game with a blowpipe being a thing, I'll just tell you, it's changed the way that most things in game are done a lot. And I haven't been a big proponent of that from the very beginning. But after a while, it just kind of seemed like that's where we were going to keep it. And now that it's just more of a pressing issue and we want to get, further into the game, I think they're just trying to draw it back a bit, which is something they should have done a long time ago. But now that it needs done, I think they're just putting it in their hands. And that, I mean, is fine with me. While Blowpipe Escape was nice and just being able to absolutely tear down everything, at the same time, I understand the game needs some diversity. And then as far as the other stuff, there's nothing too controversial. Buffing dragon bone necklaces and crystal armor and warhammers, I guess. The one thing that does kind of get me where I'm like, why? Why? They want to buff warhammers, higher their strength bonus, and they also want to change the attack speed of maces, spears, and hostas. I don't know how these metas are going to work out, but I know Old School RuneScape is always a game that's prided themselves on trying to make the early game understandable to people. And they try to put tutors, try to put helpful things here and there. Most people that come to Old School RuneScape know the old game, so changing attack speeds and possibly changing metas, or even making people have to question what the meta is, just seems to make it a bit harder in my opinion. I'm not really sure why. At the end of the day, people are just going to figure out whatever one's the best DPS and just use it anyways, so I just don't really get it. Not a big fan of that, but the rest of it, perfectly fine. And at the bottom, they did say that our feedback matters. So everyone that went on Reddit, everyone that was just, crying all over all socials, you did a good job. They cared, let me tell you. And that's how we got this next steps post today. So they talk about the blowpipe being too harshly nerfed and how they are probably going to try to work with people a bit more, get some results from some trial worlds, and see where we end up going. They also then go on to debate the dragonhide armor. Again, I don't really care too much about the dragonhide armor. I understand it. The Dinh's bulwark was a big talking point apparently. That's very understandable considering most people don't want to die to PKers, so they'll kind of voice their opinion. Again, I think it needs some sort of use. I'm a fan. The bottom one, people are worried that maybe the That's Not Faceguard will be obsolete, and I am a little bit too, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's an item that comes in from a level 60 Slayer monster. Sure, you need a quest, sure you need this, sure you need that, but I just feel like at some point it will be obsolete, so it's just the inevitable at this point. And then finally, this point is one that has absolutely blown my mind. Breathe deeply. Okay, let's prepare ourselves. There is confusion over why the toxic blowpipe is such a focus for the nerfs, yet items such as the twisted bow and scythe of Vitor have hardly been changed. Really? What are you? Who's confused? Send whoever's confused to this video, and I'll just explain it to him right now. The reason this is because the toxic blowpipe can be unlocked in the med game with 80 range and 80 mage without much bossing knowledge. It also doesn't require much gear, and that boss is also heavily botted, and those weapons get farmed into the game. In addition, that weapon is worth 3 mil and has until this point been the best DPS weapon throughout most places in game. While the other ones, like the Twisted Bow and the Scythe of Vitor, are 1 bill items from Raids 1 and Raids 2, the premier drops at 2 massive places that high level PVMers go to, and they are very good at where they are useful, but they are also pretty niche. While the blowpipe is not niche at all, it is far the opposite. It just tears everything. So that's why. That's why, in case you were wondering. But ultimately, I'm very happy with this blog. I think that Jagex is trying to do a good thing, and you know, I understand why people would kind of be upset with some of this stuff because they're used to the game that they play. That's just how it is. So whenever it's changed, there's just gonna be people recoiling in fear, and I understand. But yeah, with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like. Tell me what you're thinking down below. I'm sure you want. I'm interested to see what people think about these nerfs and buffs and whatnot. It's definitely a pretty intriguing time. And if you guys want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. And with that said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and peace.